Hey guys, it's Maymay and welcome to my 9 7/8 top tips for measuring. It's actually 10 tips. We're going to call the last one a 7/8. I thought that was a cute play on words. So I hear from you guys all the time that reading rulers and measuring is a big issue for you. So I'm going to give you 10 ways that I do to kind of make that easier. The first thing I want to tell you to do is to go watch my video on how to measure. I did a video years ago. It's still one of my most popular videos, teaching you how to read a ruler and how to measure. I watched it again this weekend because I wanted to make sure it was still appropriate or if I needed to refilm it, and it's still good. I think that's the one we should use, so please go watch that video. Matter of fact, we'll wait. Just kidding, I'm not waiting. It's linked in the description below. We'll put it in the iCard above, and we'll try to put it in the comments so you'll be able to get to it easy. But if you'll watch that video, if you're having any struggle, I think it'll really clear things up. So tip number 2, don't worry about sixteenths. Now let me talk to you about that. Most rulers, not so much crafty rulers like we use, but a lot of rulers have those tiny little lines. Let me show you, for example. This is the Dress My Craft trimmer, right? Love this trimmer, but look at all those little lines. If you're a person who cannot measure or cannot read a ruler, this can be very intimidating for you, okay? The most important thing I think for you to do is know your craft. And in my craft, which is card making, scrapbooking, paper crafting, I pretty much don't have to go below an 1/8. There are times that you do. Sometimes you have to do a 16th, like if you're doing a lid for a box where you need it to just hang over slightly or something like that. But it's very rare that that has to happen. So what I try to do is read in 1/8, and that works well for my ruler. This ruler is marked in 1/8 of an inch. Let me bring it to the camera so you can see that. So you can see here at the top, every one of those lines, the dashed line and the solid line represents 1/8 of an inch. Now, how many you count represents how many eighths, right? So if I counted one dash line, one solid line, one dash line, that's 3/8, all right? And I love that this ruler only goes down to 8ths. It does not make my brain hurt. Now, if you're interested, they make rulers that have every little line marked, and every little line is like tiny little writing, 1/16, 1/8, blah, blah, blah. Those don't work for me. They make my brain hurt. They're so cluttered, and I don't think we need all of that. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I've got to be able to read down to the 16th. But honestly, rarely are you going to find a tutorial that does that because most people don't want to do 16ths, right? So just kind of go with 8ths. Let that be your lowest number when you're creating. The other thing, tip number 3, get a ruler you can read. We kind of talked about that right there. Get a ruler that's easy to read. I personally think this ruler, the Tim Holtz ruler, is my favorite ruler. It is easy to read. It is a good size. It's been very consistent for me. It is not weak. It doesn't really break. It can break, but it hasn't. I've never had one break on me. I just really love this ruler. I think it is super easy to use. One reason it's so easy to use is because everything is so clearly marked. 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, 1 inch. It's very, very easy to read, okay? And I have gotten comfortable with this ruler. I find that bouncing from ruler to ruler kind of messes me up. Let me show you another ruler. This one, for instance, which is really not sold for its ruler abilities as much as it is for its cut-a-line in the middle. It has that little cut in the center. This one goes down to 16ths. It has those little tiny marks between the 8ths. If I go to this ruler from my Tim Holtz, I'm okay because I can see the 1/8 inch clearly marked, but I typically don't bounce from ruler to ruler. This is the one I use, and I hang on to it, and I'm comfortable with it. Tip number 4. Pay attention to your tools. This can mess you up a little bit, okay? This ruler goes in 8ths, okay? My scoreboards work in 8ths. I don't think I've ever seen one that works in 16ths, but most of mine, all of mine work in 8ths. So each one of these little lines is 1/8 of an inch. So right there, my two tools coordinate with each other, right? When I get to my trimmers, typically trimmers are going to have that 16th in there for you, and this one does. My Cricut trimmer's got the 16ths up in there. The good thing is, because I've trained my eye to see 8ths, I pretty much don't even see the 16ths. Can I see them? Yes. If I need a 16th, I can go down there and see it. But typically, I don't need to. I pay attention to 8ths. But do kind of look at your tools so you'll know when you go from one to the other what you need to be looking for. Number 5, mark common spots on your tools. Let's do this one. So I've already done it, but I'm going to take it off and do it with you guys. See how I have this 1/8 of an inch marked here? The Cricut trimmer, unfortunately, I don't love this part about it. This is the one thing I can think of I don't love about it, is it doesn't mark 1/8 of an inch in here. And because I work in 1/8 of an inch, sometimes I need to cut 1/8 of an inch strip. It's rare, but sometimes I need to. So let me show you how I fix that. So I've just taken some yellow tape and cut myself this little strip, okay? That's all I really need. I actually had this done with blue tape before because I could see it better with the blue, so you might want to think about that too. If you need something darker, use a different color. This really doesn't get in the way. So here's what I do. I take my Tim Holtz ruler, okay? I lay it down. Actually, let me open the arm out because it makes it even easier when you do that. So we open the arm out. I take my Tim Holtz ruler and I lay it down. Now, because I can see through this ruler and I can see that 1/8 inch dotted line all the way down, I take that 1/8 inch dotted line and I lay it on the cutting line, okay? And I lay my ruler at the top along the cutting edge so it's nice and square. Let me come down so you can see that really good. Oh, we're good. We don't need to adjust. Then I take this piece of tape and I lay it right beside my ruler. So press it up against that ruler just like that and press it down. Now I have marked for myself the 1/8 of an inch. So let's say I wanted to cut 1/8 of an inch off of this strip. I now go to that piece of tape, put my blade down, cut up, and look, I've got a 1/8 inch strip. Now I'm not going to do that in 16ths. I've told you 16ths is too tiny, and I never can think of a time I need a 16th inch of a piece of paper. But isn't that cool? If that's a measurement you need, and that is one I need all the time, go ahead and mark it on your tools. Something else you can do, and I've done this with a lot of my staff whenever we're making kits and things like that. Let's say you're going to make, you're going to mass produce something and you need to cut it 2 different places. So say you need a piece that's cut at 5 inches and you need it like 12 times, or say you need a piece that's cut at 6 inches, I don't know. Take some tape and mark your spot, and it will make the day so much easier, because instead of having to measure every time, you just go like this and you know you're at the right spot every time, and you just go over and over. So mark your tools. Another thing you can do. Now, I mark my tools temporarily. Some people mark them permanently. I don't like to do that. Another thing you can do, and I've seen Brenda do this because Brenda likes to mark her tools. She'll take a pencil, okay, and she'll come up here, and like 4 1/4 is the size of a card base. She will like take her pencil and make a mark above. See how I have a mark now above there? And she knows what that means. Now, you'd have to do it for yourself, you know, and mark things that you know what they mean, or even, you could even write A2 up there. I'm just using a pencil. You could do it with a marker. You could even write A2 so you know. But don't be afraid to mark your tools. I know that in video you don't see my tools marked because I'm not big on marking my tools, but don't be afraid to do that. Okay, number 6. Learn to use the center function of your ruler. You will love this, okay? So here's a scrap from my scrap bin, all right? And lots of crafty rulers have this 0 right here, and some people don't know what that means. This is the center function. Now, why do I love it? I don't have to do any math, okay? Check this out. I want to find the center of this piece of paper. I don't have to measure it, anything. I'm going to lay my ruler down, okay? Now that I've laid it down, I'm going to straighten it up a little bit. I've got this 0 here. Now, that's not the middle, but I want to show you this. If I come out to the side and count to the left, I've got 1, 2, 3, and a little over 3 1/2 on this side. And if I come out this way, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 1/4. So you can see that I need to go that way, right? So I'm going to scoot this 0 until I have the same measure on both sides. All right, so now here's what's interesting. This piece of paper was 8 inches, and I cut that 1/8 of an inch off. So now all I have to do is make sure the same amount is showing here that is showing here. So I'm splitting between the 4 and the 3 7/8 and 4, and down here I'm splitting between 3 7/8 and 4. But now I know that's my center. Isn't that cool? Okay, the next thing is number 7. If you have a grid style ruler, learn to use your ruler to your advantage, okay? So for example, let's say, and I've already done it on that side because this is the second time I filmed this. I was a little too wordy before. Let's say you want to cut a 3/4 by 3/4 inch angle on the edge of this page, okay? I can lay this ruler down because it has grids inside, and these grids all represent the 1/8 of an inch, okay? I'm going to count over till I see 3/4. Now, I happen to know that the bolder lines are quarters. So I've got 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So I'm going to make a mark on 3/4. And then because of this grid, I can go down the side and go 1, 2, 3 and make a mark on 3/4. And now when I want to cut this angle, I just take my scissors and cut across to there. And I'll show you what I did. and I just used the grid to help me do it. I did not have to measure at all. I didn't have to pick up my ruler one time. I just used the grid. The other thing that's cool about that is using the center function with your grid. Let's say you're wanting to cut an inch square out of this piece of paper or something like that. You can easily use your center function, and then you can mark, half an inch here, half an inch here, do your center function again, half an inch, and mark your square. So you can use your inside section of this to your advantage. I used to think it was just for like design, just for decoration, but it's not. You really can use it to your advantage. Let me show you another really cool way to use it to your advantage. All right, I'm gonna leave this piece here so you can see what I'm doing. So I've cut 2 pieces of cardstock. This is an A2 matte, and this is an A2 base, okay? So this one is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This one is 4 by 5 1/4. Now, I just eyeball this. When I glue this down, I just eyeball it and kind of give myself the same section all the way around. But a lot of people struggle with that, and they want to be more precise. So here's what you can do. Take your card base and lay it down. And because your ruler has this grid that you can read through, okay, we can go to that first dotted line right there and know that's 1/8 of an inch, all right? So I can lay this ruler down, and even better, I can use the center function. I can lay this ruler down on that 1/8 of an inch dotted line along the bottom of my card mat, okay? And I can center this. Even better, I can center it. This is really, really, really being picky, okay? Then I take this piece and I can center it at the top. And now I have 1/8 of an inch here, 1/8 of an inch here, and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. You see that? It lays it in perfect. You will never see me do that. That is way too much work. But if you want to know you're exactly perfect, that's a great way to do it. Use that grid to your advantage. Okay, number 8. This is my favorite tip, I think. I don't know if I said that already. Keep a backup of your ruler. Once you've found a ruler that is your favorite, get yourself a backup. Why? You're gonna walk off with it. It's gonna walk away from your desk. You just never know. But the biggest reason to have a backup, and we have this experience because if you don't know, we have a craft store. It'll be linked in the description. But a lot of times these will go on back order. So there'll be a period of time that even I can't get them in the store. And if you lose one and you need to grab one real quick, you might not have that option. So keep yourself a backup. It does not hurt. These rulers are great. They're that kind of thing you want a backup of anyway. And that way, if you are going to work on 2 projects, you could leave a ruler with one and take one to the other. This is a tool it doesn't hurt to have a backup for. Okay, number 9. This one I think is good, and I don't think we do this enough. Make common measurement charts for yourself, okay? I find that when I first started making cards, I struggled remembering the size of a card base. I was doing A2 cards, but I struggled so much to remember 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I do not know why that was a problem for me, but it was. So I made myself a list that I hung on the wall in front of where I crafted with my measurements. This template comes from an online class that I offer. It's an online class that you buy from our store, and then you can watch it at your leisure. It's actually called Greeting Cards 101, but you learn a lot in that video. So if you want this free template, that's where that comes from. I'll leave a link to that class below. But what I did here, and you could do this on your own computer. This is not a big deal. It's a series of rectangles. I made a rectangle that is the outside of the card, okay? And then I made one that was 1/8 of an inch small, or no, not that was 1/8 of an inch smaller. I made one that would leave me 1/8 of an inch all the way around, meaning it was 1/4 of an inch smaller, okay? I explained that better in that class, but to show you that. So let's say I'm making a card, and I want to, for some reason, have 1/4 of an inch showing all the way around the card. I can come in here, and I've got my card base. Then I go in 1 line, 2 lines, and I follow my little red line out and know I need to cut a mat that's 3 3/4 by 5. And that will give me 1/4 of an inch all the way around. This is really handy. It comes in super handy. Make yourself one for slim lines. Make yourself one for 6x6s. Make yourself one for mini slim lines. I say make all the notes you can. In this class too, you get 2 other templates, and these are how to cut and score A2 card bases. So just if you're interested, there's more templates in there too. All right. The next thing, let me tell you this. I even have a Post-it note on my computer that I keep my slimline measurements on because I'm still learning slimline measurements. And mini slimlines are pretty easy, but I keep that Post-it note right on my desk. So do that too. If there's a card you make all the time, make yourself notes. All right, and for the 7/8 part, this is the 10th tip or the 7/8 tip. Don't expect to measure perfectly. You're going to make projects and they're going to be slightly off and no one's going to notice. No one's going to critique your work. Don't let your fear of measuring keep you from making a project. Make a project, maybe do sample projects. I do this a lot. Make a project the first time following a tutorial and then find where you need to make some tweaks and go back and make it for the actual project the second time, and you'll clear up all those little mistakes you had. But if you do have a mistake, don't stress. No one is going to look at something you gave them handmade and critique it. And if they do, you get to decide who you give projects to. Remember that. You get to decide. So don't think you're going to be perfect and don't expect perfection. You will do it. It is perfect fun to play and make, but it may not have a perfect result. And I'll even tell you this, and all teachers, all craft teachers will tell you, you and I could sit down with this very same trimmer and the very same paper in the very same environment, and someone could tell us to cut the very same measures. And if I took yours and mine and put them together, they will probably be slightly off and it won't matter. Okay? That's it. No stress. That you know my 7/8 tip is always going to be don't stress, right? Don't stress. Crafting is fun. It's therapy. It's relaxing. Do me a favor. Couple things. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. The red button, if you click it, it's free. It just makes sure that you know when I upload a new video. And if you want to really know, click the little bell button and tell it to send you a text every time I upload a video. Number 2, if you have a top tip kind of video you'd like to see, something like this, if you want me to do it on embossing or on cutting or whatever, leave in the comments below what you would like for me to talk about next. And number 3, if you've watched my how to measure video, tell me in the comments below. Say, I've watched the video. So many people have, and I get comments on it all the time. If you struggle, even if you don't, it's a good kind of brush up tool for learning how to measure. All right, guys, there you go. 9 7/8 tips on how to measure more better. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here. And until next time, bye now.